Hello, everyone. Welcome to your world of mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today I'm sitting outside. There's a river close by. And yes, I can hear the birds and the water flowing. And today we have beautiful Luba here from Durban in South Africa. And Luba, as you know, I'm an alien. I'm from another planet, from another reality. And I would like to ask you today about what's your experience of life about like these days on Earth?
These days on Earth. Very interesting times these days on Earth. I think, there's just so many contradictions, so many examples of light, and then so many examples of dark, and then choosing, trying to choose, which one to focus on, and just trying to keep bringing back your focus into the light, just focusing on the light, because, there's and I've just found it such an interesting time, because there's such a duality going on at the moment. And so for me, life on Earth is quite interesting right now. Because of the how can I say it? It's the very clear dualities. The dualities are becoming very, very clear. It's either this way or it's that way. And you've got to choose. Whereas before, maybe it was a little bit more gray, but now it's actually quite clear.
Wow.
And
go ahead.
That we use, the thoughts that we think, the energies that we bring into our lives every day. What are you choosing to bring into your life every day? What are you choosing? Those are becoming very conscious choices that you have to wake up with every day and choose. Is it going to be light or is it going to be dark? And choose every single day. No more gray. That's what I'm feeling. That's my life.
You're mentioning a few very interesting things. I hope I can remember all of them. And the first one that I want to just mention and also ask you about is, so when you say light and dark, is my assumption that you're speaking about fear and lack-based consciousness versus love and the possibility-based consciousness? Or
Yes.
when you say light and dark, what are you actually meaning with that?
No, definitely what you're saying is like the fear-based consciousness, where we're coming from, the fear-based consciousness, the fear-based conditioning, of society, so yes, definitely that fear-based consciousness and moving more into the light, love consciousness, where, there's nothing to fear because there is no death. Because like they say, ultimately, when you fear something, it always comes down to death. And when you realize that there is absolutely no death, there's nothing to fear. People, and that whole fear-based consciousness is based on that. That's in my thinking.
Wow. Sure. I think it's perhaps one things that humanity has not yet figured out. And you mentioned it now, death. Because so many humans are so afraid of it because they don't understand it. And then that creates that fear, which then has a big circle effect. It's like a chain effect of not only the fear, but the uncertainty, the doubt, the intolerance, the greed, the power-hungry forces that goes about in different packages and configurations in the world currently. But you bring something into it about the choices, that we have a choice every single moment and every day of what we can choose. So it's not like our hands are tied. We have the freedom to choose whether we believe it or not.
Yes.
And it's up to us then to make that choice slowly, one step at a time. But Luba, what influence does such a consciousness, and especially this tension, because when you speak about this opposite, it feels to me that there must be some kind of tension between them, otherwise there won't be opposites. So how do you, in your experience it with the little ones, the ones who just recently came into the world, how does that impact them to be born into a society which has these polarities and this tension continuously, and yeah, the two sides? How do you actually help and provide a safe and loving space for little ones then to be able to thrive in such circumstances? Because for them it must be extremely difficult.
Well, I mean, I think the dualities actually became very clear for me, and my choices became very clear for me once I had Rachel. And especially then, like, how am I going to help guide her through this reality? How am I going to try and guide her so that she isn't going to be afflicted with all that fear-based thinking, that she can recognize it and say, no, that's not my reality. That's not the truth. I know the truth. And so, like every day, first of all, what I've done a lot with Rachel is I've screened a lot of her TV. What does she watch? I don't just let her sit down and watch anything. But now she's turning 5, and she's a little bit more curious about what all her friends are watching. So I sit and I watch with her. And if there's a part that's actually quite, I mean, at first, I just look at the show My Little Ponies. And the first time I watched it, a few episodes, I was horrified. And I thought this was a children's program. And the themes that they had it were actually terrifying. And I was like, how can you actually show this to a child? I can't just put my child in front of the TV and leave her to watch the show by herself. But actually, as I've been watching that show more and more, there's just so much good in it. And I've actually used the My Little Pony theme to help her actually make better choices, to see, especially, the whole theme is the magic of friendship. How when people get together and you all bring your different talents and you use them together in a good way, you can overcome any problem, you can overcome any darkness, you can overcome any fear, and the more of you together. And so I've actually been using that My Little Pony theology actually to help, and actually as I've got into the program, I've realized it is also showing the polarities of fear-based versus non-fear-based versus the love-based, and that's the whole actual theme of that show. And so I've actually kind of like embraced that, and we've been watching it, and we use it and I use it as a lot when we come across issues, and when Rachel's scared of not letting go of some of her toys or sharing with her friends, I'll always bring up and I'll say, there's the seven elements of harmony in My Little Pony. And I'll say to her, one of the My Little Ponies represents the element of generosity. So I'll say to her, well, if you give your toy to the friend and you help her, is that being generous? Have you got the element of generosity in you? And she'll say, yes, I've got the element of generosity. And then I'll say, well, and then because there's 7 elements, it's kindness, generosity, laughter, honesty, loyalty, empathy, and magic. So those are the elements of harmony. So I'll keep talking to her about, you as a child, you need to bring in these elements of harmony. Just keep focusing on the elements of harmony in this world, because that will actually, create, and you can see how the elements of harmony can take any bad situation and make it into a good situation.
Luba,
So I've been using a lot of because some of these TV shows are actually quite in depth if you actually look at them. And another one that's also helped me a lot with Rachel is the Kung Fu Panda, especially the third one, because they talk a lot about the spirit world. And, so just helping her, because she'll talk about Granny and I'll say, yes, Gran left her body got tired, and she left, and she's now in the spirit world. And she goes, okay, that's fine. And I say, you know, she hasn't left us. Her body got tired, and she's no more in her body, but she's in the spirit world. And you know, these movies actually open up a channel for us to, because they've seen it like a visual representation in the movie. And so for them, she grasps it so easily. It's not a problem. And she'll talk about her gran who's in the spirit world. And she talks about her baby brothers in the spirit world. You know, when people say to her, you have a brother? And she says, yes, I've got a brother, but he's in the spirit world. So, you know, she's, and I love that, you know, that she's open to the fact that there are other realities.
I love what you're saying. There's a few things about it that comes up immediately, and I think a lot of people, young and old, can perhaps just take a moment to look at it from a different perspective. In the sense that you're speaking about, yes, there's all these programs, and some of them are extremely violent and lots of fear. But if you stay with it a little bit longer to see the opposite side, like you said in The Little Pony, initially you were horrified and then you saw the deeper meaning in it. But that brings up something important for me. Is the media is extremely powerful.
Yes.
It's both a useful instrument for us, but it could also be to our detriment if you don't consider it with awareness. And from what you are sharing with us now, I pick up that you had the ability to, with awareness, watch that as well. So you didn't leave it to your child alone. And you could then show her and demonstrate these two parts, the fear-based and the love-based parts, the non-fear-based parts. But that was awareness on your side too, and also maturity, a lot of emotional and mental and spiritual maturity, to be able to tell her that and show to her and demonstrate to her these two different worlds and two different realities, and that she has a choice. And like you're using it as a metaphor and as an archetype in your daily lives, which is wonderful. But unfortunately, with the rushness of life these days, parents are tired, they've got all these responsibilities, activities, and they're just not present with their children anymore because of all these external pressures onto them to cope and to survive. And that by itself is a challenge. And to be able to be present in at least if it's like for an hour a day with your child, to make time for that's important, like you did. I think it's important for our younger generations also, who's going to become a parent one day, to begin to look at it from that perspective as well. That life is not just about work, 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 and providing the toys and the goodies and the technology for our little ones, but also that personal attention. To firstly take the time yourself to watch with them, because I can make a judgment on something very easily just based on the cover of something. But that doesn't tell me what's inside. I have to go through it like you did. And I think that's important for all of us. It's an important lesson that we can learn from you today. And I'm really grateful for you mentioning that we have that ability. And yes, we need to make time for it. To keep also the connection, because what I pick up as well when you speak about it is that your relation with Rachel is on another level because of it. It's not just as the provider and the nurturer, but it's also as the guide. And if I think back of my own childhood, that was the one thing that I personally, I can't complain about my parents, but it's the one thing that I was reaching out for, that I wanted, that I needed. And I always felt if I had that type of guidance, how different my life would be and my choices. And you, at this very young age of a child of 5 years, are already making her aware of her choices. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
So how would you now, I want to ask you now, so in terms of other young parents, first-time parents, no, regardless of age, or ones who's deciding to want to have children, In this very busy, chaotic life, with so many demands, especially on a mother,
Yes.
what advice can you give them?
You know, I've just seen so much, if you are seriously going to choose to become a mother and a parent, you really can't have a career and a mother. You can't be a career woman and a mother, because being a mother is a full-time job. I'm not saying you have to stay at home, but don't try and be this top-notch executive. I gave that up. And I'm not sorry for it at all, because this is my priority. Raising a well-balanced child, to me, is more important than becoming a director or a CEO or something. And I just think for women, because especially with women, we're so torn to prove ourselves in the workplace and be a mother. And if you're going to do that, your children will suffer. There's just no way, because the demands of business and corporate life are not such that you can give the most of yourself as a mother. So people really need to consider that, because children aren't just like a puppy. I'm not going to just have a child and I'll just throw the child some toys now and then and give the child a pet and say, there we go, carry on, and put the food in front of the child and feed the child and say, okay, there, you've eaten, you're dressed, you've got your toys, you're sorted. Children aren't puppies. They're a huge responsibility. You are growing or you are helping form the next generation of human beings. And if we seriously want to have a better world or see a better change, we have to try and do a better job with our children. And to me, being a mother is the most important job. So I've also met with my sister-in-law as well, who also came from a very corporate environment, but she's now started working as a teacher's aide at the school, and at her children's school. And she was just saying how she was offered a big, high-powered job again in the office, doing exactly what she was doing. And she just said, no, I don't want that. I just don't want it. It just doesn't give me the freedom I need to be there for my children. So, and I'm loving being a teacher's aide, and I'm happy to be a teacher's aide for nothing. They don't even have to pay me. I'll go and do it just because I love it. And I think, that's what we've got to do as a mother. If you're not doing what you love in the first place, and you're just trying to prove a point in the corporate world, in the man's world, then you shouldn't be there. If you're not really loving it, like it absolutely, you jump out of bed and go, whoopee, I'm going to go to the office and I'm going to do this. You shouldn't be doing it. And if that is what you love to do, then you must seriously consider not having children, because then your career is your child. And that's just my personal feelings about it, because I think you really, really have to take guiding a child so seriously. It takes a lot of time and commitment. It's not just like, let's have a baby.
You're raising an important lifestyle and life philosophy question. And I think today we live in a very different world from when I was young and you were young, where we now have so much information available to ourselves. We cannot anymore say we didn't know. We're becoming aware of so many different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And what you said as well raises to other things as well. Especially you raise, what type of adult do you raise? Forget the child. What type of adult are you guiding into the world? And how are you empowering them to be able to thrive one day? Instead of just giving them the opportunity to get all this knowledge, and then what? So it's a choice, like you say. Choose between being a mother or a guide, whatever you want to call it, and your career, if it's purely a career. But I also see quite a difference between people who is following their passions
Yes.
and a career. Because in a career, you have to, like you say, you have to prove yourself constantly. And there's a lot of achievement involved in there, which you are getting measured upon, performance and things like that. Whereas where you follow a passion, which becomes a livelihood, you don't have those type of stresses. So I just personally feel that if you want to become a mother and you're in that situation where you follow your passions, it would be much easier to do a concurrent type thing because you are responsible for your passion. You
Yes.
are deciding what to do when you are your time guardian, so to speak. And when you're tired, you can say, cut out now, I need to go and rest. Or I
Yes.
need to now spend time with my little one. Or I can say no to a client or to whoever I'm dealing with, which is
Yeah.
a very different environment from when you're in a structured, like you said, corporate type business environment where it's 8 to 5, 9 to 5 type experience. And then at home, you still sit with a laptop and the phone. So there's just no time out. Besides your child, it's you that you don't take care of. There's no time for self-care. And you
Yeah.
cannot take care or guide or nurture anyone as for a little young one when you're tired and frustration and don't get enough sleep. So there's so many facets to it that one has to consider. And I'm
Yeah.
really grateful that we're now going into a phase of more conscious parenting and more conscious decisions,
Yes.
where we cannot say now anymore, I didn't know. And then you and see yourself in the middle of chaos and you're constantly doing crisis management on yourself and on your child. You go into coping mechanism. And
Yeah.
that steals your life force. Sadly, it steals
That,
your life force. And you don't thrive yourself at all. So you stop growing in this process of trying to cope with all these different aspects. Now, Luba,
yeah.
in terms of conscious parenting, in your experience, in your community, what support is available for conscious parenting, if at all?
Um, I, you know what? You find conscious parents. You seem to find each other. You know, your children seem to play well together. And the community that I found myself in right now, I have found quite a few conscious parents. You know, they just maybe they're a little bit older parents because I'm an older parent. Um, yeah, and we seem to find each other, and there is a support amongst us. But in terms of outside of that, no, it's very difficult because I will find like I'm in public and Rachel's playing up, and then I'll be talking gently with her because I'll know either she's like really tired or she's hungry or something. I'm not going to be shouting at her and screaming at her and saying la la la. I know what's going on with her, so I'm talking very gently and politely, and she might be acting very rude, and then I'll get these looks like just slap her, and I'm like, and the pressure from society is that you need to discipline your child, and you like, no, what, my child is hungry. How is me giving her a smack going to help her being hungry? She's still going to be hungry, and I've done nothing except break the trust between my daughter and myself by physically abusing her. So for me, the pressures from society in this like harsh, that you need to discipline your child. If it's not it's just they need a smack, or they need a time out, or they need a, but it has to be something harsh and they need to be punished. You get a lot of pressure like that from society. So I find it is a challenge, but it's not about me and society, it's about me and Rachel. And I've got a very supportive husband, and my friends are very supportive. So yeah, I don't worry too much about what the other person thinks, because but really the relationship, it's not between them, and it's about myself and my child. And the biggest thing for me is you know, I'm just thinking about it, how this is such an important phase, you know, in Rachel's age, of that connectivity, like you want to be connected with your child. And this is when it happens at this age, where they develop the trust, where they develop that connection. Because you can't go and all of a sudden expect a teenager who you have not taken the time to connect with in these first developing years, and then all of a sudden say, but you know, you're not connecting with, you can't connect with that child because you've actually never connected, and you expect you can only connect with them when they're a teenager. But I realize now, this is the time where the trust is actually built. This is a stage where the trust is actually built between the child and the parent, and the trust and the respect. And yeah, so for me, these years are the most important, because I know how challenging the teenage years are going to be, because, you know, we've all been teenagers. So you have to put the foundation down to help guide your child through the teenage years. But if there's that trust is broken at this stage, you can't actually get it back, because in their teenage mind, they don't feel like you're a safe place for them. And the most, you know, a lot of psychology, all the reading I've done, you know, the first 7 years of your life, you know, when your actual EQ is being formed, it's the most important part of your whole life, because this is where you develop your feelings about how you fit in this world, your feelings about what this world is all about. Do you feel safe in this world? And it's the foundation for the rest of your life. And it's not to say that the programming that happens, you know, especially on an emotional level at this stage, is so important, because you undoing let's say the bad programming from childhood as an adult can be done, but it's an extremely complex solution, you know, and it's just so many levels to actually eventually get to that emotional program that's running. And then it'll always come back to those first 7 years of your life. What happened? You know, what was your developmental years? And so for me, this is, you know, I have got career ambitions, passion ambitions again, and I'm starting to look into those, but they're still on the back burner for me, because Rachel is still priority.
You know, Luba, when you speak about it, what comes up for me is a few things. Firstly, when you make that type of decision, but you become aware of what's happening with your child's development on a very intimate and personal level. It's not just another being in your home that you have to feed, that you have to take to school, that you have to go and attend the parents' meetings and having meetings with the teachers about the child's performance and the likes. It's something very different that you're explaining, which for me takes it immediately back to two things. The thing about how you're going to act as an adult, because like you say, there's these 7-year batches of growth, of development, and that first 7 years is about your physical safety here on earth, feeling safe, where's, like you say, your place in the world. But you're going to, and we do that, whether we're aware of it or not, we repeat that cycle from the age of 21 again. That same cycle, finding our place in the world after you studied, while you're busy studying. What am I going to do in the world? Am I going to be accepted? Am I feeling safe? Because suddenly, that same space, relatively safe space of going to school for 12 years, and now it's even longer, 15 years these days, and then going to university, that safety net, or that type of disciplined behavior, whether we like it or not, suddenly falls apart. And it's you and this big world, and to find your place. And if you don't have this first 7 years stability in that sense, feeling safe in the world, having that emotional bonding, having that emotional understanding and the mental understanding that you're going to repeat it. And the very interesting part is when you work with people in the workplace, leaders specifically, managers and leaders, which are two different things, but they both have the same type of issues ensuing, is they become critical parents in the business world.
Yes.
Or insecure parents in the business world because they don't feel themselves safe in that environment. They constantly need to prove themselves as well. So it's a vicious cycle, and you cannot escape it, no matter what you choose to do in your life, because you're going to fulfill that role. And it's very fascinating for me when I've spoken and had, in the times that I was still doing executive coaching, is when you were asking a leader that you now act, what part of you were acting out? The wounded child, the rebellious teenager, or the insecure adult, or the critical parent? And some of them don't even have children. And then suddenly they would say, oh my goodness, I'm acting like a critical parent. But it's because they feel unsafe themselves. And how they found their own place in the world. There's still this lack of self-confidence, low self-esteem. But those things are all coming back to that first 7 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's what type of adult are you raising? What type of adult are you guiding into the world? What type of world are you sharing with them? Because if I have a little one and I'm constantly telling them about this very dangerous place, and it's not to say that they should not take care of themselves and just do crazy things, but it's what world are you projecting onto them? Is it your own fears that you are projecting onto them? Or is it the world that you aspire to? And yes, we all have fears. We are all human.
Yes.
But just that intention to constantly say, I want to, it's my aspiration to, and my intention, we hear little Rachel now. Hello, Rachel. It's my intention to project onto my child the world that I aspire to, instead of the one where my wounded parts play out. This world will be a completely different place. But now, as we know, little children are extremely perceptive. They are very sensitive. They pick up things that adults do not think they pick up. They pick it up like this. And some later stage, that type of sensibilities are suppressed, and then they slowly go down the drain. But little ones remember that, and it's in our cells' memories. We cannot escape it. It's in our psyches. It's in our subconscious minds. So it's very important to also, when you say about the choices, to take some time for reflection, whether you have children already or whether you are planning to have ones. And even just thinking about it in the future is, what type of world do I want to project onto my child?
Yes.
They empowered me or they wounded me? What part of it? Because your worldview will directly impact your child's ability to thrive in the world one day. And like you said, it's a lot of work as an adult to go through these layers and layers of conditioning.
Yes.
It's such hard work. We don't have to do it anymore. We know enough now at this time of this time in space that we can now approach things in a very different way.
Yes.
Now, Luba, you were saying earlier something about, now that Rachel is also there with you, we're hearing her beautiful voice, is you were speaking about your passions that you're slowly starting to pursue again, but very slowly. A little birdie tell me there's something about some blocks, but it's related to raising a child. What is that all about?
Basically, I've started with learning through the Lego Foundation about early childhood development. Sorry, I just need to switch off an alarm here.
No problem.
And, the actual, how important it is for a child's development to actually play, and the importance of play. And what happens is with the blocks, it's just such a fantastic manipulative for a child to play with, you know, in terms of developing the whole 3D awareness, spatial awareness, and the foundations of the neural pathways that are being created in the child's brain. And this has just really, really grabbed my attention. And I just love what can be done and what is being done with these blocks, you know, and how it's actually reaching out to so many children around the world and just giving them such a different learning experience. So, sorry, I just need to hear what do you want, my sweetie? Okay.
Maybe she heard blocks.
Yes, we want to play.
You want to play.
Wants to play.
Mommy's going to play soon, my love. But you know,
Yes.
Luba, it's very interesting that I also came across adults that's using it in the business world.
Yes.
To be more innovative, to catalyze creative thinking. But you mentioned something very interesting that's really important, not only in a child's development, but also in our adult lives. It's the thing of using our spatial intelligence. Because we live in a world which is very tunnel-based, tunnel vision-based.
Yes.
To experience life in different dimensions.
Yes.
Gives us not only on a visual, physical, sensory experience, extremely expressive and a growth and expansive experience, but also it's directly linked to our emotional intelligence as well as our mental intelligence. So it brings different types of intelligences of ourselves together. Why am I saying that? If I build something together with you, like in a group, little ones playing together, they're co-creating already at that stage, spontaneously and naturally. No one has to tell them. They just start doing something together.
Yes.
There's a spontaneity there. And we call it spontaneous and intuitive creativity, which is very different from intellectual creativity. Because there we use our minds to figure something out and to build something. But there's many senses involved in building something like with blocks in the way that you explain now as well. And why am I saying that? It's your touch. So you're not only sensing, seeing the spatial intelligence through your eyes, you're feeling it with your body, with your hands.
Yes.
And that's a skill that we're going to need tremendously in the future.
100%.
And so we're already starting at that very young age to strengthen, it's like a muscle, to strengthen that spatial intelligence, but not only from a visual perspective. It's really be able to feel it, the different textures, but also when you look at the total creation, that you also know with those same blocks you can create something else. And that's what creativity is truly about.
It is phenomenal, Hannelie, and I must say that I'm so excited, and I always, every time I do a training session, I'm just covered in goosebumps, you know, because I'm sharing what I've learned, and it just like, I'm just covered in goosebumps because I just know that this is going to make a difference in the children's lives, and it's just going to help them so much, because there's a saying I came across that says, until the body knows it, it's just theory. It's not knowledge until the body knows it. And if the body doesn't know it, it's just theory.
Now you're talking about language. My alien language of embodied learning.
Yes.
Because we never learn how to use our cells memory during the learning process, because it was such a mental process. You mentioned something so extremely important, especially in today's life. And to see the difference when somebody goes through an embodied learning experience versus a purely mental experience is something extraordinary. It's something it's like two different worlds that comes about.
Yes.
And it's people's genius really come into play that way. And even geniuses like Einstein said it. If you really want to catalyze the genius within your child, let them play, catalyze the imagination in all sorts of ways. There's all these things that just comes together. But there's something else that I want to mention, Luba, and I don't know if you would agree with me, that whether it's your experience as well, when you go deeper and play with these blocks and just notice from outside what's happening to the child's physique when they play, the joy that comes out of them naturally. But there's something else that suddenly just comes up. I don't know yet how to connect it perfectly, but there's somehow a link when they start playing with the blocks. You have to put it on somewhere. I mean, it has to have a foundation, like some type of foundation where they can build onto. And that seems to me to have a link directly to the physical safety that they feel in the world, which they now feel through their body because they're building something on something.
Yes. Sorry, Hannelie, I think
no problem.
My 5-year-old.
She says to us, time out. She says time out.
She's saying now, time out. You can't speak so long. It's not acceptable.
And I love that. That's a choice, eh? But Luba and little Rachel, we just want Mommy to give us one last message for any aspiring or young adults or first-time adults who's planning to have children. What message would you have for them?
Okay, sorry, Hannelie, I actually didn't even hear that because my daughter has run out of patience, as she's told me. I've run out of patience, she says. So sorry, Rachie, come here. Come sit with me. Come sit with me and talk to Auntie Hannelie as well. Come, please.
Luba,
come. Okay.
She's telling us the message. She's telling us that give attention.
You need a lot of patience.
You have to have patience and stay present to what's happening.
Yes, stay present.
So thank you, Luba, for today. And people, can they contact you afterwards? Can we leave your information for them if they have questions about an interest about the blocks and any other early childhood development experiences and learning that they can get from you?
Okay, I heard you, my sweetie. I did hear you. Okay. Mom! Rachel, I need you to hear me, sweetheart. Okay, I'm just saying goodbye to Auntie Hannelie because I need to say goodbye properly. Okay, you don't just put the phone down on someone. You need to say goodbye properly, okay? Mom. So give me 2 more minutes to say goodbye properly. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Okay. I got 2 minutes.
So people can contact you afterwards?
1, 2.
Pardon?
Yes, by all means.
Oh, thank you, Luba. And Luba, we also send you lots of love. And thank you for the way you are taking motherhood and parenthood so seriously and with so much intensity and sensitivity. Thank you for the example that you have for all of us. And everyone really reach out to her, and her little one is now asking for attention, which we're gladly going to give her. Thank you, everyone. We see you soon again.
Okay. Keep well. Bye.
Bye-bye.